actual reveal trailer here. That's always nice. And we are taking us back to the place where it all began. A dark, gritty, horrific, and hopefully terrifying experience. That's where it started. That's kind of our DNA as developers, so hopefully you saw that in the trailer.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up the DNA. First off, you guys like exclusives at Comic-Con, right? You're getting an in-room exclusive, because they want to cut this up and put it on YouTube later, right? But some people over there, they get all weird about, copyrights and lawyers and stuff. So I'm going to say a game name really quick, and then we're going to refer to it the rest of the time, right, as Michael Condrey's horror game. Everybody understand? Michael Condrey made Dead Space. Woo! So we're all on the same page, but it's now Michael Condrey's horror game. So, Michael Condrey, when you made Michael Condrey's horror game, what drove you to survival horror? What makes you want to get into horror games like this?
Well, let me step back just 1 second there if I can, Greg. So, look, we're just a few of many hundreds of talented developers. Just like on Michael Condrey's horror game, I was just lucky to be a part of a really talented team. So I just want to make that clear.
So you're saying Michael Condrey's horror game wasn't made just by Michael Condrey?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. But when you made Michael Condrey's horror game, Michael Condrey, why did you feel the need to go so cerebral, so awesome, so amazing, and make a survival horror game like that? And then what did you learn that you're now applying to this one?
Yeah, I mean, that was a great experience for us. Glenn and I started that team a decade ago, really. It was actually Game of the Year, and I think for us, we saw an opportunity to do what we're doing here, which is come back to a place where we can really terrify fans in a way that great films have done over time, but in an interactive way. So, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Michael Condrey's horror game was, a chance to sort of immerse you in a place that you believed in, and then really terrify you in a way that harkens back to the films that we've come to know and love in the past, in our childhood.
Sure. So then, Cameron, where do you enter in with that? Like, what are you another horror buff? Is everyone at Sledgehammer a horror buff?
Oh, big time. And having been a fan of
Cameron, don't be afraid of the microphones.
All right.
I'm not going to hurt you.
Here we go.
Scooch in.
Check one. Siblings. We here? Oh, wow. Hi.
I'm a full service moderator.
And all that entails, right?
Can I check seats?
No, you're in the perfect seat. Don't worry about it. I have a new idea for a Michael Condrey horror game. Do you want to hear it?
I think I'm living it right now.
So is horror in everyone's blood?
Yeah, it's something that we've all been living, breathing, talking about. I mean, getting into, because we are geeks, we've dissected horror. We're talking about all the different ways that you can feel fear, and you've got the easy jump scare, but you've got the simmering, boiling, you've got the environmental, and there's so much there in Nazi Zombies. Again, you guys saw the trailer. We tried to share a little bit of that across the board.
Well, that was the thing. I mean, watching the trailer for me, and even seeing what they're putting up now, like, there's such a visceral, scary, like, actual horror movie vibe to it. Like, is that the idea, Michael, pulling from what you loved as a child?
It really is. I mean, look, I think this week and this celebration here at Comic-Con reminds us of incredible points in, our youth, growing up and being consumers of entertainment. On that note, I think maybe we should give a round of applause for the passing of George Romero. He was a big influence on us.
Everybody, please, George.
John Carpenter and The Thing. These were experiences you had when you were placed in a believable setting, and the suspension of disbelief of the horror was about shock and surprise. Right? Now, there's different types of horror out there, and there's lots of ways to scare people. But what we learned in Dead Space was
Michael Condrey's horror game. God damn it, they're gonna have to edit.
Oh, they're gonna have to cut that out. In previous horror games we've made, it's about the tension. And I like the word visceral. We use that as well, right? There's graphic violence that can be scary, but for us it was the tension, the build-up, the pacing that was more powerful than...
I think sometimes there's the sense of what's happening in your imagination. Everything that we design, these horrifying creatures, which, by the way, you've only seen a tiny fraction of in the trailer. What's happening in here is 10 times more terrifying, and we try to lean in on it.
Yeah, it was interesting for us. Some of the lessons we'd learned in the past was really about that. It was, I remember on on previous games that may have been called.
Michael Condrey's previous
Thank
game.
you. There were moments where we thought going to 11 scared people, right?
Yeah.
Louder, more violent, more enemies. But in fact, we found just the opposite, right? It's sometimes when you take it down to 2, and to Cameron's point, you let your head fill in the anticipation of something coming, that impending dread, that fear of the unknown. That's really where you can get people, and I think we've captured that, and I think you see that in the trailer.
Yeah.
So John, was that something you were excited to take on? Like this is all cool and this all sounds great, but to go in a different direction than what the zombie modes before have been, it's a little bit of pressure for a little bit of a game that might sell a few copies.
Yeah, there's some pressure, but the studio has a really good pedigree in horror. We certainly have good pedigree in Call of Duty first-person shooters, so putting those together was really exciting for us. Really good opportunity to showcase the talents within the studio. We have a really talented studio, so I'm really proud of what they've done. And it was, all the lessons learned in previous games helps us build tension, helps us build a whole variety of things that come together, from character design, story, setting, theme, even the voiceovers that we have serve as kind of an emotional punctuation to the moment when it varies up and down according to the pace of the game.
The narration of the trailer is creepy.
Yeah, that's super creepy.
Super creepy. So Cameron, what is the story here? What is happening in Call of Duty World War II Nazi zombies?
So, the core thing is we wanted to build off of something that felt tangible, that felt real, we actually had this discussion last night. Being chased by zombies in, cartoon ice cream land is a lot less scary than being chased by zombies in your backyard, right? There's something about the realistic about this happening, and so we very much dug into a lot of the foundations of what the single-player game and the multiplayer game has been building off of, and said, okay, how do we twist that just a little bit? And so, how many of you have been following some of the web stuff that's been going on, the YouTube reports, the letters from Marie? You gonna raise your hands? Okay.
Sir, do not raise your hand ever again at a panel, please. Thank you. Hold on, let's try it again. And everybody else, you're off the hook. You did all right. Who's been following the campaign? Thank you, sir. All right.
Yeah, there you go. So we're building this story that's based on characters. We've got Marie Fisher. We've got the story of her brother. We've got this incredibly realistically based cast that is about to come across something that is unexpected and completely twisted.
So, where does this come from? Where do you start finding all this? How do you make a story about Nazi zombies believable and grounded?
The secret is to be a big enough geek
that
you start to tell the story to yourself. You're like, well, I've got to come up with some sketches. I've got to come up with some stories. I've got to come up with some side things, and eventually get this mountain of stuff that it's entirely possible you won't use any of it in the creation of the game. But it turns out it was really useful in kind of setting the stage for what's happening.
So what are you pulling from? Are you pulling from like German myths or?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, look, World War II as a canvas in many ways, reality was more strange than fiction, right? And there was a lot going on during the war, into the war. We've all, I think, been exposed to the MFA, or what's more commonly termed the Monuments Men, the group that went out to retrieve stolen art. And so as we started to piece together what really happened with some of the more creative liberties that we were going to do with